Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. So it's no secret that a lot of business owners right now are going through a cash flow crunch. So if you're feeling this way, you're 100% not alone. I think that the number one issue I'm seeing among different clients I have worked with, I am working with, and folks that I'm working with through the CFO On Demand program, a lot of folks are really struggling with cash flow. And they're asking questions like, Shannon, how do I inject more cash into my business? How do I get more capital in my business so that I can hire the next person or do the next thing or sell the next product or buy ads or whatever it may be? And truth is that the immediate thing they go to is almost always, hey, how do I take on investors? How do I raise capital? How do I get people to give me their money, basically? And I want to share a few thoughts with you on that if you're kind of in that place. So I hear a lot of people talking about how they've raised money from investors, they've raised capital, and it's awesome. I've been part of those processes before. I will say this, it's a very rigorous experience because you have to know your numbers back in front. You feel like you're on Shark Tank, but you're also answering a lot of questions and facing a lot of your insecurities and anything you don't know. It's almost like being quizzed on a book report in school. Like, just think of how nervous you would probably feel when you were younger if you were asked to be quizzed on something live in front of the class. Like, that's how it feels. It brings up a lot of emotion. But why I share that, and I'm not discouraging that, by the way. I'm not discouraging raising capital. I think it's phenomenal. However, I think that people jump to the idea that they need to raise capital in order to generate cash flow for their business if they're not selling. And I'm going to challenge that, and I'm going to give you some alternatives. So I want you to think about this creatively. If the problem that you're seeking a solution to is that you are feeling like cash is low, you need to create a new source of cash. It's not coming from sales, because Lord knows if we could just like wave our hand and new sales would come up, we would have done that by now. But we're in a place where we're saying, okay, I need more cash. Maybe we don't want to take on debt, because the first place I would send you to is a line of credit or possible debt. Now, this also assumes that you know how to handle credit. You know how to handle debt. You know how to manage it. You know how to leverage it. If you're not familiar with how to do that, and you think that if you take a loan, you could end up kind of in this downward spiral, then I would say don't do that. But if you're looking for a cash injection in your business, I think taking on debt is very smart because you're buying time. You're buying more time to regenerate that cash flow. Getting a line of credit or getting a loan is perfect when you're just in a rut. You know you're going to get out of it because you know there's some seasonality. Maybe you're in a dip right now in the year. Maybe you just need to hire that next employee and it will open up your capacity to go back and sell. Like, you know that all you need is enough to float you for 2 or 3 months while you're picking yourself back up. And if that's the case, then I love something like that for you. And again, as I always say on this show, I'm not giving you individual advice, but I want you to see yourself in some of these and see where you relate to them, because these are all viable options other than taking on investors. I want you to think about the idea of raising capital in order to generate cash for your business is kind of like saying, I got married so that we could split the mortgage, right? It's a very high commitment action that, yes, as a side dish kind of solves that problem, but the action is really designed to do something bigger. It's really designed for something different. So you're creating a sense of commitment with your investors. You're allowing them in, you're allowing them some ownership. And there's this philosophy that I would rather have 70% of, say, $1 million than 100% of $100,000. I understand that. I know that math. And that is very true. But I want to make sure that if you're taking on investors, that you have that type of outlook and that you know that it's going to be beneficial to you. And that is your goal, is to grow. If you are simply looking to solve an immediate cash flow need, one of the best pieces of advice, if not the best piece of advice I've ever received, was from my father, and he said, don't apply permanent solutions to temporary problems. Don't apply permanent solutions to temporary problems. And this is no exception. If you're in a cash flow crunch, it's probably a temporary problem. But a permanent solution would be to infuse capital through investors, because now you're accountable to those investors. It might change your fundamental structure in your business. It might require you to meet compliance requirements now. You may now have to report to them quarterly. There are a lot of commitments to that, and you're signing yourself up for a lot. So before you get to that point, I want you to explore a few other options. Now, I've mentioned debt. That's one of them, as long as you're responsible with the debt. The other one I want to bring up is specifically related to your purpose, to your intention, what you plan to do with the capital. So an example that comes up for me, it's a couple things. You could do, let's just say you're raising money to pay for ads for a new product suite that's coming out, like a new launch or a new iteration of your product. Well, you could simply enter into contracts, standalone contracts, finite start and stop contracts with people that you know who have the resources. Or you can even crowdfund, but I'm not going to get into that today. There's a lot of nuance to crowdfunding. But what you could do, for example, is you could enter into a deal. Let's just say you have a colleague who happens to have a lot of extra resources. They're looking to invest. And they ask, hey, can I buy shares of your company? And you say, you know what? I'm not currently taking investors, but I really need money for ad spend. Would you be willing to give me $10,000 to put towards my ads this month? And then I'll have you participate in the growth that we get from the ad spend. So any sale we make from that ad, I'll give you X% of it until you're made whole, and then some. So it's kind of like a private loan, but you can enter into certain transactions here where there's a fair exchange of consideration, we call it, or money, and what the other party is going to do. This also does a couple of things. Let's use this example and unpack it for a second to identify that there's an opportunity here, because let's say the strategic partner who has the money also has the influence to then promote your ad even further. They can even pour gasoline on it and put their own money toward the ad spend that they didn't give you, just to ensure that it's successful and to maximize results. So if you think about it, it really is a win for everybody. And at the end of it, you get the results you were promised, you get to keep your clients, and they move on. And you have no commitment to investors. You have no need to report to anyone. And you can take your new cash flow situation and react accordingly. You can change your conditions around you and not be committed to an investor. And I share that with you to just open your mind to creative solutions to these problems, because in reality, there's no need to commit that much to taking on investors if you're not ready. And I'm not going to poo-poo on raising capital. Like I said, it's a very good solution if you're in the position to do so. And you want to take investors and you want to have a massive company growth, a massive exit. I'm all for it. But as you're a small business, and if you're in operations right now, and that's the key focus is just operating, and you just want to buy yourself back like 3 months of cash, then I would 100% look into other options, because that temporary problem may fall by the wayside and you're going to be stuck with a lot more problems if you are committed to investors. So keep that in mind as you navigate this really rocky economic climate right now, and just the whole world of entrepreneurship, which is insanely unpredictable. Open your mind up to new ideas, new options, talk with people, open up the conversation, and figure out what terms, what conditions would have to be present for this to be a win for everybody. Nothing's really off the table when it comes to contracting. There are no real rules here, as long as both parties feel like they're made whole and both are happy. So start thinking creatively and start thinking outside the box on how you can achieve your objectives without really signing yourself up for more than you bargained for. Finding the right support that you need for your business can be so confusing when it comes to accounting and tax. Sometimes it seems like you can't find a CPA or a tax pro who actually understands your business, or they charge way too much for what you actually need. I've seen this for so many entrepreneurs. They're in a bad relationship with their accountant because they don't know what to look for. It is not your fault. So I created a perfect guide for you that is totally free. It's called the Money Pro Matchmaker, and it will teach you what your pro should be doing, questions you can use to interview them to find the right person for you, and a guide to evaluate them so you know you're getting what you pay for. Do not get stuck or screwed with the wrong accountant. Download the guide now at moneypromatchmaker.com. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.